Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're gonna analyze an OLED monitor that you can find for approximately $400 or even less, the AOC Q27G4ZD. Why is it so affordable? Let's find out. We're looking at a 27-inch QD OLED panel with QHD resolution, a 240Hz refresh rate and a 0.03 milliseconds response time. The design is quite understated. It's not a monitor with a very gamer-like look, but rather has a minimalist touch, which isn't bad at all. The base is solid and the panel's mobility is ideal, allowing for height, tilt and swivel adjustment, so I don't think a VISA mount would be necessary at all. What clearly stands out the most is the image quality. Having an OLED panel means we have completely pure blacks and technically infinite contrast. Since it's such an affordable OLED, around $400 or even $350 if you go for the simpler version, you would normally expect some significant compromises in this area, but the truth is there aren't any at all. The colors looks quite vibrant, well represented, and without the need for calibration you can perfectly enjoy both games and multimedia content. However, there's one important point to mention here, and that's the brightness. The brightness is around 250 nits, perhaps even a little less, so it's not a recommended monitor for very brightly lit environments. This brightness level is quite normal for most OLED panels, but in this particular case, the handling of direct reflections on the screen isn't the best, so if you have a strong light source in front of the monitor, it's something you should definitely keep in mind. As for HDR, it actually performs better than one would expect for the price. The monitor can reach approximately 275 nits by adjusting the color profile, which is quite good. Furthermore, the brightness is very uniform, it doesn't change depending on the scene, and that helps the HDR looks consistent. Obviously, it doesn't have the peak brightness or calibration of more expensive OLEDs, but the HDR still looks good, it's enjoyable, and that's a plus to the overall monitor experience. Now, moving on to gaming, there is not much to analyze here because honestly, the monitor performs very well. Being an OLED panel, no matter how affordable it is, the response time is practically instantaneous and there is no ghosting or smearing, and the image remains clean even in fast-paced games, so in this aspect, it more than delivers and leaves little to complain about. It's wonderful for gaming and watching content, but how does it perform for work? Well, we have to be clear on this point. Although the panel looks incredible, it's not the ideal monitor for prolonged work, especially if you're dealing with static interfaces on the screen such as timeline in Premiere or the toolbar in Photoshop. The risk of burn-in still exists in OLED panels, although nowadays it's much more controlled. So for light editing or occasional use there's no problem, but if your priority is working many hours a day, perhaps an IPS monitor would be a more solid option. In terms of connectivity, it features two HDMI 2.0, one DisplayPort 1.4, a headphone jack, and several USB ports. It doesn't include built-in speakers, but at least it has a headphone jack. And well, unfortunately, since it doesn't have HDMI 2.1, it's not possible to take advantage of ALLM or BRR on PS5. Yes, the monitor can be used without problems and the image quality, especially with HDR enabled, looks very good, but in action-packed games like shooters, you'll likely notice occasional stutters or strange image behaviors. In short, it can be used with consoles, but it's not the most optimal. Where it truly performs at its best is on PC. Before continuing, remember that the link to the monitor is in the video description in case you want to check it out. And finally, in conclusion, the AOC Q27G4ZD is a monitor that offers a lot for its price. Having a QD OLED panel with this image quality, this contrast and this gaming performance for around $400 is something that was unthinkable until recently. For PC gaming and consuming content, it's an absolute marvel. However, it's not a monitor for everyone. The brightness is limited for very bright environments, it's not the best option for prolonged work due to the risk of burn-in, and it falls short for consoles since it lacks HDMI 2.1. But with that being said, if your priority is PC gaming and visual enjoyment, and you want to make the leap to an OLED without spending a fortune, this monitor is an option you should consider. And well, that's all for today's video. I hope you liked this review. If you want me to review any other monitor, leave it in the comments. See you next time.